Carl and Lou here from Games, Brains and a Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial.com for short. And it is, of course, the Nasties as we go to 1981 for a head-scratching entry in this series. Head-scratching because simply it doesn't belong on this list. There is nothing nasty about this. There's nothing about at all throughout that screams, oh, this should have fallen foul of the censors. It's a baffling watch.
Compared to what we've seen before, you're like, really?
It is a literally 1980s slasher movie with very little gore.
Yep.
It has got violence, but very little gore. Beyond, it just fits neatly into the 80s package of slasher horrors with some imagination that was done around the time. As the opening credits roll and you see who's involved, it gets even stranger because you're like, okay, there's the director, Toby Hooper. Okay, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
All right, so he knows innate violence and that feel and stuff like that. But you're like, well, Texas wasn't a nasty film.
No.
Texas didn't fall foul of the censors because obviously the rating was correct and stuff like that, and it was unleashed and stuff like that. What was special about this? So truthfully, knowing very little about the movie, other than that it has a bit of a cult classic following, my expectations was, all right, there's going to be something in it that makes you go, boom.
Yeah, there
now,
we go.
admittedly, at the start we thought we found it, but truth be told, it doesn't match up realistically to the way things are. We'll get to that, though. It is, of course, as I said, the Funhouse. Also released as Carnival of Terror. Either name works fine, I think.
Yeah, I like Carnival of Terror better.
It might have helped it if it was under that name in the UK, because obviously what would happen? Released by Universal Pictures, the film was director Hooper's first major studio production after Eaten Alive in 1977, which is a previous Nasty episode.
Yeah, Robert Englund.
Yep, and it was very, very young, and the pet alligator lives at that very sort of
Shady motel
in like Louisiana kind of area. Interesting film. We quite enjoyed watching that one. And of course, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 1974. You can draw a lot of comparisons to Texas to this movie. There's actually a written review of this film over on the website, not done by me. Normally I've been the one covering all the nasties, but Liam actually picked this one up before I got around to even watching it for the first time. So you can go read his thoughts on it, which are pretty accurate to, I think, what we're going to say as well. It was released uncut in 1987 and reclassified as a 15 in the UK in 2007. There is a big whoa.
Yeah, because we saw the 15 cart, didn't we?
We went, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yes. It also should be noted this movie was not prosecuted. It was not one of the 72 that actually got prosecuted. It was, obviously, the attempt to prosecute came after its release, but it failed. And this is a rumour as to why. Because here's the thing. The BBFC is not very clear a lot of the time as to why they make their decisions.
Yeah.
You go to the BBFC website and you put in, say, the search for a film. It'll tell you the rating and it'll tell you some details. That's about it. Every so often, though, they seem to go, no, we'll explain ourselves here. And I think that I'll explain a bit more about that, I guess, in another one when we cover the last Nazi exploitation we do. Yeah. But it can be quite frustrating. So, like, putting in a Funhouse, you only really get what you get now. But it's been suggested that this movie basically got mixed up with another. And this is why it got added to the list. Because it's fairly tame in comparison to other entries. It may have been mistakenly chosen instead of the infamous horror Last House on Dead End Street. Now, I've never seen this film, so I do not know. However, this went under an alternative title. Can you guess what that alternative title was?
Funhouse.
The Funhouse. And did not appear in this list, even though people are like, well, that film probably should have done.
Yeah, should have maybe looked at that one a bit closer, guys.
Doesn't it just scream this whole nasty scare full stop, this nasty period, the video nasty period of the 80s as well, when, and although it's not nasty related, I use the comparison between everyone getting out of their fucking shit over Silent Night, Deadly Night because it portrayed Santa as a killer, and then completely annoying and ignoring the other one that came out in 1981. What's it called? Your man with who dresses up like Santa, toys, all that, flies off in his car at the end. What was that called? Christmas Evil. Yes. Christmas Evil. Yeah. Ignoring that one that came out 3 years previously, that arguably really portrayed Santa in a different light. Really interesting. I found out that there's a novelization of this. The screenplay, written by Dean Koontz.
Oh, okay.
So a fairly prominent writer. He did it under the pseudonym Owen West, though. The film production took so long that the book was actually released before the film. And the novel contains a great deal of backstory and characterization, which is not used in the film.
Okay.
Books often do that, that's no
Yeah.
surprise. However, it should be noted this movie is very light on characters.
Yeah.
These are blank slates, almost to a certain degree. I don't know if that's specifically to try and make you feel like you could be them.
Maybe.
Because there really is nothing. Tell me anything about our main four that's character-wise. We know their names.
Yeah.
We know some parts of their personality. Final girl.
Yeah.
You know.
I kind of feel like it's part of that is done on purpose because this carnival goes from city to city.
I think it's supposed
So
to
they
literally
have-
be nobodies.
Yeah. So
I
they
think
go
it is, yeah.
Next town, we'll find the same teenagers going there for fun.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I think it's absolutely nobodies. And I think that works. And I found this interesting tidbit for those who have seen a modern horror movie. Halloween Kills, the latest Halloween movie, the very disappointing and waste of time Halloween movie. The characters of Sandra and Phil are watching the Funhouse on a TV in the background while playing with a drone. I found out, I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. Didn't notice myself,
No,
probably because I was half asleep at that point. So boring is that film. Cast. Elizabeth Berridge as Amy Harper. She's very good in this. She's very expressive, does quite well in it as the final girl. Cooper Huckabee as Buzz. I think probably aside from the villain side of things, my favourite actor.
Yeah.
I think he's really good in this, particularly as there's a certain point in the movie where I think he takes control quite nicely and sees things, I said to you during it, sees things for what they are.
Yeah.
That this is a big mistake and now we're in trouble and there's no really backtracking on that trouble.
Just have to try and get out of it.
Yeah, I really liked that. Largo Woodruff as Liz Duncan. Miles Chapin as Richie. Kevin Conway as Freakshow Barker, Stripshow Barker, Conrad Straker, the Funhouse Barker. A lot of roles for him. Wayne Dober as Gunther Twibunt. Gunther, although his name's not really said, is the monster.
Yeah, you don't really name him much, do they?
No, but he is the monster villain of this. Sylvia Miles as Madame Xena.
Yep, we see quite a bit of her.
William Finley as Marco the Magnificent. I quite like... He's only got a small role in this, but I quite enjoy his little magic show period of things. And Sean Carson as Joey Harper, the little boy. Probably the most off-putting part of this movie, for me personally, because it's so like, oh, it's a kid and he's so 80s and what's he got to do with this? To be honest, very little, really.
And his intro's odd as well.
Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Well, yeah, we'll get to that now. The introduction, the start of this movie is unusual, to say the least. It's unusual for siblings to behave in this way, but it's also unusual as an audience viewer to sort of be introduced to characters in this fashion. So it apes two horror movies. It apes Halloween and Psycho, as we get a masked intruder sort of playing around with stuff in a kid's room with gloves on and that kind of thing, but we're seeing through the peephole of his mask. It's very Halloween opening of that aspect. I even said to you at the time, I said, my God, it's trying to be Halloween.
Yeah.
Anyway, this person sneaks into the shower where Amy is showering. She did a whole...
She looks very... first thought...
Let me finish this and then we can talk about that. The curtain gets pulled back and the person starts to stab her as she screams, that kind of thing. It's Psycho, basically. It should be noted that this is actually Joey under a mask, her younger brother with a fake knife and, So, yeah.
She looks so young.
Yes.
Like, she looks older in the later scenes when she puts makeup on.
Yep.
And she dresses like her age. But she looks about 14.
Yep.
And then she's kind of topless in this, and then goes into the shower. Yeah, it was just a bit. At first, it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. We thought we were a bit like,
yeah,
because she looks so young.
We was like, oh, yeah, this is where it's going to get in trouble, and it's like we actually looked. No, she's 20. She was 21 when she played Amy.
Yeah, of course it is. It's absolutely that. But she looks particularly young. But you're saying this, well, of course, this is a big studio release. They're not going to be silly and stuff like that. But as an opening, we thought it was odd because Amy acts like he just jumped out of her in her room when she was on the phone or something. She's fully naked in the shower, and he's pulled a curtain aside and trying to pretend to stab her with a knife.
It takes a long time.
And it's kind of just like, she's like, oh, you... And it's like,
Yeah, I did.
What?
Yeah,
What?
I said it takes a long time, and also, it's just really odd. The fact, and I say her anger as well. Like I would be telling the parents.
Yeah.
If like my brother did that to me, like he went.
It's very inappropriate. That's what it comes down to. It's
Yes.
incredibly inappropriate. But it's also a bit silly as well because the first few stabs, she screams and reacts like she's legitimately getting stabbed. But then we see in the final one, the knife sort of bends because it's like rubber.
Yeah.
And I said to you, like, so why in the first couple of stabs did she not realise that was fake? Do you know what I mean?
Unless
Like,
you just kind of like
shocked, I guess. But yeah, I thought it was a bit strange. But yeah, she ends up chasing him into the room. He hides in the closet. She grabs him and she swears that she's going to get revenge on him, like, and so on, that kind of thing. She's going to a carnival night and all that, which I guess is sort of ties into the story later when she disappears in the carnival and he thinks it's her playing a prank, maybe, or like this is her revenge. But yeah, so she's going out for the night against her father's wishes. She's going to a travelling carnival, or she tells her parents she's going to the pictures with on a first date with the character of Buzz, her friend Liz, and Liz's boyfriend Richie. Buzz is basically from the wrong side of the tracks, that kind of thing. It's like, oh, I think the mother says something like, oh yeah, you know, like he's got a job at a filling station, like,
oh yeah, like,
it's like, fuck you, mum, man.
Yeah, he's still working.
Do you know what I mean? He's fucking working, doing better than all that. Buzz comes along. He immediately gets everyone's back up, including the parents, just by banging on the horn over and over again, give her a freaking chance. And they're in the car and stuff like that. She tries to sort of say, look, should we just go to the pictures? And he's like, no, man, let's go to the carnival. We're hanging out with Liz. We're hanging out with Richie and stuff like that. He has a way about him that initially you kind of believe, oh, he's going to end up being a dickhead of the group, that kind of thing, because he can be a bit forceful, a little bit like meatheadish.
Yeah.
But he tends to always immediately calm down and relax and like, hey, is everything okay? Like, here's a great example. In the car as they're driving to the carnival, he tells this horrendous joke about a duck and a hot plate and all that.
Yeah.
She doesn't find it that funny. And she kind of just smiles and all that. So he keeps telling her over and over again. And they're all like, oh, lighten up, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah. They're all smoking weed as well, aren't they?
Yeah, they're smoking weed and stuff like that. Although she will see her smoking weed later on.
Yeah.
But when they get to the carnival, Buzz, like Liz and Richie go off, and Buzz is like, look, is everything all right? Like, I think you're annoyed with me and stuff like that. And she's like, oh, no, I did think the joke was funny. And he's like, oh, don't worry about that kind of thing, you know. So he does have two sides to him, that kind of thing. There's nothing about him. He's not abusive. He's not mean. He's never nasty. He tries to protect her. He's fine, basically. Yeah. He likes her, but it's also one of those where you can tell, like, in school, he was probably quite popular. Yeah. And now he's not in school, like, with a lot of he's not, like, got a high-paying job. He's not got a lot of money. He's not got a lot of respect. So he's had to... That high station he had as maybe like a football player in the school and all that, it's not there anymore, and he has to take... That's what I always kind of
like
get.
Leader of the group, kind of.
Yeah, where it's not in real life, that doesn't exist anymore, and it's kind of has to take a station down. She has a little bit of uppityness about her, where it's clear she comes from a little bit more money, upper class parents. Yeah. He's almost got his back up because he's expecting her to look down upon it. And she even asked the question, like, why you never asked me out before, that kind of thing. Yeah. And he kind of doesn't really have an answer for her. And you kind of, I read it as, like, it's because he probably thought you were better than him, too good for him, and that kind of thing. Yeah. So I find the dynamic interesting, to say the least. They're likeable.
Yeah.
Richie and Liz, not so much. Richie is every annoying friend of the group you've ever seen before.
Just his choices all the way through. It's just like...
You're
that character.
Which is really interesting, because a decision later on, from the start, you would think it would have been Buzz would be the one. Particularly when they're setting up that he's from the wrong side of the tracks, doesn't have a high-paid job.
You'd think it
would be him that makes a bad decision later on, but it's not. I thought that was really interesting. So yeah, Carnival. We spend a fair amount of time at the Carnival with these characters to begin with. They're just hanging around, playing on some rides, doing a few of this stuff, smoking weed. But the Carnival itself really does exude a sleazy feel. Yeah.
It's big, man.
It's big.
Fuck, packing that up at the end of the tour and going off again. It was big, like the actual the Funhouse itself. There's tons of it. Yep.
And most of the places have their own individual barkers doing introductions and trying to get you in there, which I always quite like. It's something that in the UK I've never ever had the chance to experience.
No, fun fairs.
Yeah, but fun fairs and these existences, you know, a fun fair now is so far removed. The fact that you can't even find a ghost train, a basic ghost train at a fun fair these days. They're more designed now for children than adults. And never, you know, I experienced, thankfully, in Ireland back in the 90s before I left that country, something that would come around every August that was a massive, gigantic, almost theme park travelling theme park every fucking year. He used to come to Kells.
Beat Rick World.
So I've got nice memories of that, but like, yeah, never really experienced it with this. So I always love watching this with a fascination, because it is from a time period.
Yeah.
It is from the 80s and stuff like that, and it's got a real cool look to it. And that sleaziness is enhanced by certain events.
Yeah.
So like, they go inside a freak show for animals.
Yeah.
And basically it's animals, cows in particular, with deformities. Born deformities, from cleft palates.
Yeah, poor cow.
To one that has a second head sort of growing on its second, you know. That one we believe was likely faked. The cleft palate one, 100% not.
Oh yeah, no, because you see the animal like...
Yeah, you can see it was struggling and stuff like that. That's actually quite, like, if you care about animals and stuff, you just kind of feel a bit like, oh, I don't think they're being mistreated in the film or anything like that. No. Not at all. But just, you know, the whole, like, oh, look at the freaks, that kind of thing.
It was weird, because even on the actual film, there was a sign saying approved by the...
Ah, yeah, of course it would have been.
So they've actually put it on there in the actual film, in the freak show.
Yeah, because they want you to see
like,
it.
even back in the 80s, maybe that was kind of more of a thing now. People didn't want that. So.
Yeah. As well, we see them visit a magic show, which is the one I talked about at the very, very start, which is sort of like the guy who's drinking constantly throughout it. But it is very entertaining to watch, and it's quite concise, and the trick itself is amusing.
It's really good.
Like, it's really, really amusingly done and stuff like that, and I like the look of the guy, so I quite enjoy that as well. Where it really hits sort of sleazy lows is basically like the strip show, the peep show, as it were. The Barker's like, oh yeah, there's one with hair, and it's like, oh, it's my sister.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's with the fucking sibling stuff, you know?
It's a bit odd, yeah.
Yeah, we should add as well, like, to really add, going back to the very start, part of the sort of weirdness at the start is Joey compliments her cans.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, so like this, and they end up like sneaking around the back and cutting a hole in it and looking that way. And we get like a view inside, and it is so sleazy, you know, it's all like middle-aged men sitting there. All these women with like tassels on their boobs and stuff like that. You're just like, ew, it's grotty, and it's not titillating. I really think that's super important. It's weird as well, like, dotted around the carnival, as you would get, there's these odd homeless people that I now actually think are part of the experience, because they continued there to be there throughout. So
they did, remember, just hang around. I suppose good begging opportunities. You know, people got a couple of cents over from paying for something.
Yeah, because Liz and Amy end up in the toilet at one stage, and they run into, like, the old woman there who's probably one of the worst actors in it, over the top, but you know, God is watching, and her facial expressions and stuff like that, because they're talking about Amy losing her virginity, you know, because Amy's a virgin, and Liz is all like, why don't you give it up? Why are you holding on to it? And all that sort of stupidity, that kind of thing. But the film does, not stutter to a halt here, because I think it's too early for that, but you do spend a lot of time with just no one really saying anything. No character development.
It's just them at the carnival.
Yeah, we might as well be the fifth person of these four, just hanging out with them, except we don't get to smoke weed. No. And we don't get to eat any popcorn. No. You know?
I mean, you do, as a positive, you do get a really good idea of the carnival.
Yeah, you do.
And what it's like. And kind of why parents might be a bit like, don't you want you hanging around there? For all the like fun rides, you get the sort of less savoury parts of it. For British parents.
I think that's crazy talk, because the carnival is packed. If you're just there with everyone else and you leave with everybody else, there's no issue. It's rammed. It's a very busy thing, and it's professionally run, hence the Barkers and stuff like that. During this period as well, we see Joey sneak out of the house because he wants to go to the carnival. He'd been punished for his behaviour and told he wouldn't be going, but he decides to sneak out. We get this weird scene where he walks along the road and some guy stops in the car and asks him to get in the ride. Yeah. And then when Joey says no, the guy pulls a gun on him and then laughs like a maniac when Joey runs off. You're like, fucking funny, hilarious. But he ended up visiting Madame Zena, who is one of those, basically. Have you ever seen the show Bottom? The UK show Bottom. There's an episode in there where Richie goes and visits a fortune teller. Yeah,
and she's already got his wallet, so she knows everything
about him. This is what this feels like. But then Zena tries to take it seriously. It's funny because she puts this accent on. We know she puts an accent on her because later we'll hear her without said accent. Yeah. But yeah, she comes across like a hack, saying these standard stuff about how you'll meet a tall, dark stranger. Yeah. Admittedly, the others are very annoying here. They're sitting in the background, Buzz, Liz,
just laughing away.
And just laughing away at everything she says, to the point where she eventually just loses her shit and shouts at them to run out and stuff like that. You get this kind of weird scene where like the crystal ball hits the floor and then rolls back towards Madame Zena as if it was sort of magical, but that's
No,
there's nothing about that.
There's nothing magical about this film. It is just.
I think now what it was designed to show was actually the floorboards and show that there was like an underground, like a lower area to everything more than anything else. But yeah, after that, the kind of night's coming to an end. Things begin to ramp down. I do like the slow shots of the funhouse beginning to close down. It does feel very much like, okay.
That's what ended the night, yeah.
But Richie's like, oh, we should all spend the night in the funhouse, like sneaking to... The funhouse is basically the ghost train, quite an elaborate one as well. They do go through it, and he's like, we should spend the night in there. We'll sneak in, we'll stay in, and we'll spend the night there, for 2 boys, 2 girls, that kind of thing. It's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
It's a terrible idea, because even if you do sort of, all right, cool. It sounds like it's the sort of thing I think if I was 16 and 17, around 16, 17, 18, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And like, I was trying to hook up with a chick, I'd have been like, yeah, not thinking about the fact that I'm not going to get any sleep.
Yeah.
I'm going to be tired. It's going to be cold. All these aspects. Forget the getting caught thing. It's just that, and forget the events that happen. I wouldn't have expected that. But yeah, they're all a bit like, but eventually they all agree, including Amy, and he makes a call to her parents, tells her a little white lie about staying with Liz, who also says doing the same. So they're all covering for each other. So that's where they decide they're going to spend the night. So at this point, we still haven't really experienced anything horror related, but we are now going to kind of ramp up. So we're still inside the ride with them. There are so many clever shots here, and like, the inside of the funhouse shutting down is probably one of the best, and it's to do with the animatronics. Yeah. There's a lot of animatronics, robotic things and all that. And we do this sort of montagey scene, seeing them sort of slowly wind down. Like,
and like get hit by the darkness when like lights get turned off.
That shit is really, really
well done.
Well done. We'll say it now. If there's one thing this film does brilliantly, it's how it's shot.
Yeah, and
use of lighting and stuff like that. It is really, really captivating. You watch it.
Yeah.
I will remember this movie for the carnival.
Yeah.
Long term.
Definitely.
100%. Absolutely. But basically, they all start to hook up. There's some more topless scenes here and all that. But they actually get interrupted by hearing noise underneath them. So basically, they're up above a level in the funhouse, above some floorboards that they can actually see through. And they basically witness a man who's been seen a few times in the background, particularly at the funhouse, normally pushing the carts through, in a Frankenstein mask. Quite tall, quite gangly.
Yeah.
Very slow moving. You would think simply part and parcel of the show. He's moving that way because he's supposed to be Frankenstein. Yeah. We now see him underneath in this room, underneath where the kids are, where the gang are. And he's still got the Frankenstein mask on. So there's a bit of a clue. Truth be told, I expected that mask to stay all the way through.
Yeah, but see underneath.
Yeah, like you would never actually see, maybe to the very end. But this person, whoever it is with Xena.
Yeah.
And basically, Xena's taken on the role of a prostitute now.
Yeah.
And she wants money for him to have sex with her. Yeah. It's very coy about how it's done, and then it stops being coy completely. Yeah. Which is really interesting. He takes money from like the takings, I guess, from the ride. Gives her 100. There's a bit of, again, it goes on quite long. A lot of times scenes just go on quite long. Yeah. Where it's like he takes $1, one bill. No, not enough. Another bill, not enough. Yeah. Gets the last bill, it's a $100 bill, and then she's fine. She pushes it down, and she's like, come over here, puts in a thing and all that. From a wide shot, she basically starts to touch his penis, starts to masturbate him, but he has, I'm going to put this, premature ejaculation very, very quickly. And don't get me wrong, I love her dialogue here, like, it happens to the best of us, all that kind of thing,
You probably think he's swinging around $100 for like, fuck all.
Well, he wants the money back. He's mad. Yeah. He's mad. Hey, dude, no, that's not how it goes. Yeah. You still got what, but
it's very grubby, isn't it?
It's very grubby because it's on a mattress in this grubby room in this grubby funhouse. The word sleazy keeps coming up. It feels it, it looks it. It is a sleazy event. But Xena's like, nah, man, I ain't giving your money back. And he then murders her, chokes her to death. You're like, oh, okay, that's quite.
Yeah, so this is where the horror's coming from.
Yeah, you're just a bit like, oh, okay, because you're thinking as well as like carnies stick together. Yeah. So like, why has he killed her? That kind of thing. Seeing this, the teenagers are like, okay, this is a problem. We've just witnessed a murder. Let's get out of here. But they're actually now locked inside the funhouse. Of course, it's been locked down. That completely makes sense. They try to escape. They look around, but they actually end up in the room. Somehow, the whole makeup of this funhouse is very confusing about how many levels it has, how they get from one to another.
It sometimes feels too big. Because you have to kind of, like, I know you're watching a film, but this is a travelling carnival. Yep. Right? I've seen where they pack it up, like, must all fold down, but like there's actual rooms and areas. Like, how does that?
No, it is quite complex. It is quite complex. You know, best I can say is that where they were, our gang was the highest part of the funhouse, right?
Yeah.
Got to be.
So, yeah.
But it's not always very clear. I mean, that's kind of cool in a way because it makes a disorientation for us because we never quite know why or how they're not able to find a way out of what should be a very small ride. Yeah. But yeah, basically in that they end up in the room that the killing just occurred. Nobody's in there except for Zena's body, which has been kind of hidden under a cover, under a mattress. Whoever the killer is gone. But we do sort of see Richie stall in here, and instantly, I think I said to you, he's going to steal the fucking money, isn't he?
He does it at first like he's going to check if she's still actually dead.
Yeah.
Like, let's check she's actually dead.
Yeah. But it's like, he's going to steal the fucking money. And I was like, such a terrible idea. We then get a bit more detail about what actually be going on as the Funhouse's Barker, which is Conrad Straker, who, for me, is the best actor in the movie.
Yeah.
I could watch this guy speak, deliver lines.
Does a really good job.
From when he's introduced in the Funhouse, because early on in it, we get a lot of scenes where he's kind of slowly talking about come to the Funhouse, experience the horror.
Yeah.
Like that. I love that. I love that. And even like here, he never really raises his tone. When he gets angry, like he then goes to comment, because basically he's a father as well. So he's got that aspect of the thing. Put it this way. This is a movie, again, I think I've used the reference before, but my goodness me, if Rob Zombie wasn't inspired by aspects of this movie with House of a Thousand Corpses, I'd be very surprised. But yeah, he then discovers what his son, which is the Frankenstein mask, Gunther, actually did. He's very mad he killed Xena, he killed one of our own, why did you do that? But he's like, okay, well look, we'll cover this up, we'll dump the body and we'll say it's some locals. But when he finds the money is missing, he gets mad at Gunther, thinking Gunther took it, and starts to hit Gunther with a belt. This then reveals Gunther taking his mask off and revealing his true face. This is a look. This is a look. Was a mask. It is a mask. It's a mask that is very deformed, very sharp, protruding, almost goblin-like teeth. Very long, kind of white, thinning hair, red eyes that are quite wide and exposed. You laughed when it got
I did. I wasn't expecting it, and I was like, "Oh."
Is it the scream? It's because the scream.
Yes.
Like it's very high pitched. He screams. We might have expected a deeper roar. He kind of goes, "Ah," you know.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
And you laughed when that got exposed. What do you think of the mask overall? I think it's good, not great.
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, it does. I like the fact that his skin's quite white, because obviously if he wears that mask all the time, he's not going to get much sun on his skin. So they kind of thought it through and stuff like that. And obviously, maybe he started off as a sideshow freak and he got even more deformed, and they had to put a mask on him to put it on a download. So yeah, I like the fact.
Okay, yeah, I'll go with that. Obviously, the teenagers see this and like, holy shit. But Richie, being the biggest pain in the arse, moves a little bit, and the lighter drops out of his pocket into the room. And of course, this is then seen and heard by Conrad. This is why I talk about great acting. He picks up, he's so calm about it. He's just like, what are you watching? Where are you? Why don't you come down here? I just want to talk to you. You want your lighter back, don't you? Like, I love that. Anyway, I absolutely love that. But he basically sends Gunther after them. Look, go deal with them. It'll be the last thing you have to do. Because basically it implies here that, like, Gunther doesn't want to kill. Like, Conrad has forced Gunther to do this in the past. And he doesn't really want to. He's like, look, it's been the last time. Then we'll go fishing. We'll do something really nice and all that. And it's like, that's a bit manipulative, you know? Buzz also, though, at this point, this is why I talked about Buzz, his face goes stony and he just looks at Richie and he's just like, you took the money, didn't you? And Richie's like, I would have split it with all of you. And Buzz is like, are you fucking kidding me? Liz is all like, let's return the money, it'll be okay. And Buzz slightly says, like, no, we've seen too late for that.
We've seen a murder.
Like, we've seen way too much. We put the money back. It ain't going to change nothing. We are now in danger. You're just like, oh my God. And I loved it because, like I said, you would think that would have been Buzz the one that's stealing the money. And then he turns out a bit of a douche. And Amy's like, oh my God, you know. But no, he's like, fuck's sake, what did you do? So yeah, basically, now they're trapped in the funhouse. Now they're being hunted. They kind of arm themselves with some props of weapons. This is a part where I always get puzzled about, where I'll be like, these aren't props.
No,
these are sharp, full-on weapons, violent weapons. You're like, that'd be wood, wouldn't it? At least,
yeah.
You know, you
painted wood.
Yeah, you wouldn't be spending money on this kind of stuff. But hey, maybe, again, part and parcel of it is that when they kill people and do the body, that's why they've got these kind of real weapons and they blend them in.
Prepared.
Like, for any investigation, they're blended into the... Like, you wouldn't keep them lying in a box.
Oh, yeah.
You'd have them blended in as items where, so like, police come around, they may not even look at them because they're part of the Funhouse design. You know, you could say that. So, yes, we then... Every death, right, and there aren't loads, admittedly, in this film happens quite quickly. And the first one suddenly comes out of nowhere, and it's Richie.
Yeah.
As a rope comes down, and he's basically hanged by Conrad, pulled up, and seemingly strangled. And you're like, oh, he's dead. Like, okay. And they're all like, obviously upset, but he will have to move on. But then he's not quite dead yet. As there's a great scene where a train cart comes round, and they think like the monster's in it, and so on. And Buzz has got an axe, and he buries it in the monster's head. But it's Richie, who may have still been alive at that point. We're not entirely sure. But like, he's buried in his head, and we were like, okay, there's a violent bit, nice little bit, all screaming and stuff like that. Liz, hysterical by this event, runs off, actually falls through a trapdoor into a vent area. And in there, she's kind of stuck between a fan, and then Gunther comes crawling through. She tries to use her womanly wiles to deal with him. Basically, I'll be your girlfriend, I'll look after you, that kind of thing.
She's thinking, she's using her head.
She was. Because she ends up cuddling him and hugging him, that kind of thing. But she's got a dagger on her that she used to stab him in the back. But it doesn't faze him, really. It hurts him, but just angers him, and he ends up pushing her head into the spinning fan. We don't see anything. No. I thought this was going to be quite a gory moment, but we don't actually see anything, except some sort of noise. Should be noted, while this is all going on, the boy, what was his name? Joey. He has stayed in the carnival, looking for a sister, because he saw her go into the Funhouse. He saw her not come back, so he's constantly sort of hiding around, looking as the other carnival workers are just hanging out, eating, kind of just talking and stuff like that. He doesn't have any dialogue. All he does is seem to be watching, that kind of thing. But eventually he does run afoul of a couple of carnival workers, gets hurt, and then meets a friendly one who calls his parents to come and collect him. At no point does he tell his parents what's been going on, that kind of thing. And you're a bit like, well, why not? But then as he's getting in the car with his parents, he kind of flashes back to her, telling her she's going to get her own back and all that. And he thinks it's related to that, so he thinks, fuck it, I'm not going to bother. That kind of thing. Inside, Buzz and Amy left, and they're basically confronted by Conrad with a gun. And again, it's great acting by Conrad here, between Buzz as well, but he actually do get into a nice little fight. And you would think that Buzz, being the bigger, stronger man, could take him, but he actually struggles against Conrad. But then that's because Conrad isn't wily.
Yeah.
Like,
he's been doing this for a while.
Yeah, like
he's been scrapping for a while.
He's probably had more fights with people like Buzz than Buzz has.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. But Buzz does get the upper hand and pushes Conrad onto a prop sword that stabs Conrad all the way through. He does momentarily try to push Buzz onto it as well. Buzz kind of gets stabbed a little bit there, but doesn't really have much effect on him. But that's the end of Conrad. Buzz is then killed by Gunther, who arrives obviously furious and that his father's been killed, leading to obviously the showdown between Final Girl Amy, she was Final Girl from the start, and Gunther in a cool final area. Initially I wasn't too blown away by where we were going to end the movie, but the stuff they do in it, I was like...
They put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah, it's grinding gears, electricity, they kind of face off, and it's really well done in that he gets caught on a hook, electrocuted, and then pulled into grinding gears. I was like, elaborate as fuck, that's great, but also while this is all happening, this entire set is sparks going off everywhere, bits are falling down. I'm like, Jesus,
really well
that's really well done sequence. And Amy's acting in this, Final Girl, fear, revulsion, all that kind of thing is done really well. She's got a great expressive face for it without saying much as well. Likewise, like all good monsters, you kind of feel a little bit sorry for Gunther. He's just a victim of circumstances.
Yeah.
Of course he is.
Yeah.
His upbringing and birth.
Yeah, travelling all the time. You don't think. Yeah. It doesn't seem like very conducive to having a nice childhood.
No, absolutely not.
Hidden as well.
Absolutely not. Forced to wear a mask. Forced to be disgusted. Probably. They do talk about, when he's talking to Conrad, when Conrad's talking to him, they talk about other events that occurred and stuff like that. Like I think there's a story of he got attacked. Gunther got attacked by a group of boys in another town. So you don't mean he's one of those. He's Frankenstein. Yeah. That kind of thing. The monster. Dawn breaks. She emerges from the funhouse. I don't know, simply finding a way out. And it's just sort of Dawn, empty, kind of packing it down situation. And the last sort of scene is on top of the funhouse is like a laughing animatronic fat lady who kind of laughs and then shuts down. And that's the end of the movie. As I said during it, the thing that stands out the most for me is visually how it looks. You know, glossing over it because we can't talk through every specific scene. The times they're spending sort of slowly moving through the funhouse trying to find a way should be really boring. However, the way it's shot is often really, really cool because you're like, oh, look at that in the background. Later, as things start to activate and come alive around them, that's even cooler and stuff like that. You're never quite too sure what's going to come out next. That's what I remember more than anything else. Character-wise, there's nothing there. The basic blank slate. But acting-wise, do a solid job required of them. The villains aren't villainous in this conventional sense, so there's enough understanding about them. If you have any knowledge of carnies and carnivals and stuff like that during a certain period, it all feels very authentic to a certain degree. But I also really like aspects where we're not just seeing, oh, they're all villainous. We do have these stuff with Joey outside where, hey, look, you know, he's lost. I call his parents, looked after him, that kind of thing. Yeah,
I like that. So it's not all just like black and white. And the fact that it's like it seems like the dad uses him to cover up mistakes that he might have made by getting angry with locals and stuff like that. So it's kind of like there's not all the way bad people. And the fact that maybe he has to wear the mask, he gets his son to wear the mask to avoid confrontations. And obviously, because that would inflame people a lot more and then get up into more trouble. So yeah, it's not black and white.
No, absolutely, and that's quite nice. But it's not deep either. I think that's very important to say as well. There's no hidden depths here. You're not seeing something that you can analyse and pick apart and then do a fucking thesis on. It is still a slasher movie at its core. It's just a nicely done one. But going back to what we said at the very start, nasty? No, not in the slightest. It's probably one of the tamest, because at least with some of the other ones that we've questioned, we've been able to maybe someone's point and go, well, there it was, whatever. That's, or famously that had 3, or it's been uncut now, but that at the time. This even at the time, this, fuck me, Halloween had more than this, you know? It generally seems to have been a mix-up.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a good movie though? A recommendation to watch?
I do think it is a good watch. The pacing sometimes a little bit
slow,
bit slow.
Yep.
And it's all kind of all or nothing towards the end of the film. Sometimes they're moving around the funhouse. You see them go through the same areas a few times. A little bit slow in certain parts, but I would say definitely watch it.
Do definitely watch it. I think it's a little bit of a hidden gem. It is slow on places, and it shouldn't be that slow when you've got such basic characters.
Yeah.
It makes up for a lot of that in places just simply to be wowed by some of the visual looks of it and the feel of this carnival and the environment. I feel like I was there. I felt part of it. I felt like I could picture the entire landscape of this area, aside from the actual funhouse, which felt almost like the TARDIS or something. Yeah. But again, I think that was on purpose. Yeah. And that if that was the case, then it fucking worked. Absolutely. So I think this is quite a cool movie to watch. Something that has been tagged with a Video Nasty thing, but the fact that you can watch it now uncut with a rating of 15 tells you a lot, I think. Definitely. Yeah, definitely check this one out. If you already have, you know what to do. Drop it in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?